So let's try doing this during the day. I had a special noontime critique, or noontime screening. Actually, not noon, it was 10 o'clock in the morning when I saw this. I just got out of seeing Blade Runner 2049, directed by Denis Villeneuve. I believe I pronounced that correctly. If I did not, I apologize. So Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies. I'm also a big fan of the cyberpunk genre. I mean, I did a whole, big thing when I did my video on, Deus Ex Human Revolution about cyberpunk and the evolution of the cyberpunk genre and that sort of thing. And later this month, when this comes out, I'm not going to put this out day and date with the screening. I'm going to put this out. This should be coming out second Wednesday in November. So it gives you some time to see it, but I want to hold off on major spoilers, talk about some minor stuff, that could be spoilery. So keep that in mind going into this. So this film is set about 20 years after the events of the first, 20, 30 years after the events of the first Blade Runner movie. Closer to 20. And the film follows a police detective, Blade Runner, who is a replicant by the name of K. It's not his real name, he's got a big serial number, but he's referred to as K over the course of the film. And this character is played by Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling's filmography is something of a blind spot in my, watching, in my filmic experience. And seeing this film, I'm trying to think, maybe this is something I need to rectify. At the very least, I haven't seen Drive, I need to see Drive. Cause Gosling's really good in this. Robin Wright is also in this, and she's also very good in this. She plays, basically the chief, only referred to as Madam. In sort of the Chinese, Hong Kong, Asian thing where female police detectives and investigators are referred to as Madam rather than, Sir, than just a universal Sir. And the premise of this is that Ryan Gosling's, that Kay, while in the course of doing an investigation of a replicant and killing a replicant, we stick with the conceit of, they call it retirement, but he's killing them. He discovers information that could basically turn things upside down. This stuff is revealed about 10 minutes into the film, but I'm not going to spoil it because that's kind of a big deal. And it's kind of a holy crap moment, and I don't want to ruin that for anybody. But this leads to him going on this big investigation to find a particular person. And he finds out that he can be who he needs to find to lead them to this other person is Rick Deckard, Harrison Ford's character from the original Blade Runner. So this is a good movie. It is very dark, atmospheric. One of the complaints I've seen, I've even talked about this on my Tumblr blog, is the cyberpunk aesthetic is very Asian influenced. And in the first Blade Runner, this wasn't just the street slang. This wasn't just the decor, how you had things being sold to you by geishas in giant advertisements, and the whole advertising aesthetic was clearly inspired by Hong Kong and downtown Tokyo, and particularly like Shibuya district and that sort of thing. The film also had some significant Asian actors in the cast. Probably one of the particular notable examples is James Hong, who, if you've seen Big Trouble in Little China, you'll remember he's the actor who played David Lo Pan, as the scientist who designed the eyes for the replicants. I just do eyes. That scene. So one of the complaints raised about the film, and we'll talk about this now, since I talk about social justice things in my Tumblr blog, I might as well talk about them in my videos, is there is not really an Asian presence of any kind in the film. And I did a blog where I was saying, I'd be very disappointed if that were the case, that thing, pointing out that in the original Blade Runner, it wasn't just a decorative presence in terms of advertising. It was a physical presence as well. You had Asian actors, Asian background extras, that sort of thing. Not so much here. And I thought about this. And I kind of got an idea figured out why they're trying to do this. They shot the film on a variety of locations, Ontario, I believe, and Hungary. But we still have the same cyberpunk decor. And I was looking in the movie for Asian background extras or Asian people in the cast. I'm like, I'm not seeing anybody. Why is that? I put my hand from my mouth there. I'm not seeing anyone. Why is that? And then it kind of clicked when I started paying attention to what languages everybody else is speaking. And you see bits and pieces of this with the background sign. And there's what came to mind, what called this to my attention, is this. I'm going to be seriously thinking about was a scene with Gat. With Edward James Olmos reprising his role. It's a short scene, he has dialogue. He actually has more dialogue here than he did in the entirety of the original Blade Runner. In Blade Runner, the character of Gat uses what's called in the science fiction fandom slang dictionary, a conlang, a constructed language. In this case, it's a slang dialect. It's called street speak, which uses a combination of various languages. I believe, Japanese, Spanish, like Japanese and Spanish. And he used that predominantly, and also have, lots of people in the Asian people in the street scenes speaking Japanese as well. And generally when Gat is talking to people using street speak, he doesn't need to explain what he's saying. He explains a bit to Deckard when it's important. And by it's important, I mean it's something that the audience needs to know. Or rather, he doesn't explain it, somebody else explains it for him. There's a scene in the film with Gat in Blade Runner 2049, where Gat uses a bit of street speak to Kay, and that he has to embarrassingly, apologetically explain it to him because Kay doesn't know this street speak. And then, not long after this, we have some dialogue scenes on the street in a general street scene and in Kay's apartment block, which is has the new street speak, and it's more Russian influenced. And while we have no Asian people in street scenes among the experts who our main character consults, we have a lot more people of color, and particularly black people, including black people speaking African dialects, and not just like African dialects of English, but African languages. I'm not good enough at recognizing languages at first hearing to say what language they were using, where they were from. But it makes for an interesting, give the idea of a cultural shift. That the predominant pop cultural and advertising languages and the high culture languages are still predominantly Asian and Japanese, in accordance with the cyberpunk aesthetic. But street level, everything's kind of gone Russian or Hungarian or Africa and Sub-Saharan African. We still have, again, lots of Asian language graphics all over the place. Like, all over the place. We have hiragana and katakana on signs, a little bit of kanji. We have on background signs in buildings, like in the police station. And this is actually kind of a weird bit. It's like there's a sign like what you have where a warning sign where you have it in English and a couple other languages so people know what they're doing. You see this in doctors' offices, police stations, official buildings, city halls, wherever, libraries. Something in a variety of languages. And they only had 2 for this sign, and it's English and Thai. I'm like, I recognize Thai characters, and that's different. Not Japanese, which is particularly notable because the equipment, the computer the guy's using here, its vocal output is just in Japanese. And then in, again with, other signs that are in, a couple of languages, there's a sign on a casino in a location towards the late middle end of the movie, when it's turning into the film, when the film's third act starts. It's in the brown, dusty building you see in the trailers in the movie. I think you can actually see a bit of this in the trailer for some trailers for Blade Runner 2049 as well. There's some signage in Korean. So we have like 3 major Asian languages, Japanese, Thai, and Korean visually represented. Auditorily represented, you have some Japanese, but no actors. And again, it feels deliberate, because like the further out you go, the more Russian you see. There's a bit early on in the movie, like the first scene of the film, which involves Kay tracking down a person who's revealed to be a replicant. Possibly a replicant. Okay, minor spoiler there. It's the first scene of the movie. I can cut them like that. Replicant played by Dave Bautista, and a definite one-scene wonder thing. And all the signage there is in Cyrillic. So, I mean, Cyrillic is a written language that's used for multiple languages. Russian, comes up in Greek as well. That sort of thing. So, well, not Greek. Greek has their own written language, but Russian, I believe it's used for Hungarian. A couple other Eastern European languages use Cyrillic characters to represent the spelling of words. So there's that. And so Russian is represented in writing there. Again, the only reason we super paid attention to this is because of this article I read on Tor. I'll try to put a link in the doobly-doo on that. Other than that, really nicely done, really well written, really well played out, put together mystery. Very visually well done. This movie is probably going to get a Best Cinematography Oscar at least for how the film is shot and how lighting and colors are used in the film. Writing is again excellent. It actually uses a bit of a concept at the beginning of the film, that first scene, that was part of the plan for the original script of Blade Runner. If you watch the making of stuff on the Blade Runner Collector's Edition DVD, there's a bit there where they're talking about how one of the early plans for the film was that it was good, like back when it was like in the 1970s, before we got to the actual version that we got, which in the 80s, came out in the 80s, was that this film was basically going to be a one-scene wonder. Not one scene wonder, but a one set wonder, like a three rooms piece, where the Blade Runner shows up at a farmhouse, and the entire film is basically dialogue sparring between the Blade Runner and the other guy in the farmhouse about whether this guy is a replicant. And this opening scene clearly calls back to that concept. It doesn't go that right there. We get some verbal sparring, but it's more it's more clear that going in, this guy knows, Kay knows that this guy's a replicant. And when the guy claims otherwise, he points out visual cues, which makes it clear otherwise. But otherwise, so yeah, that was great. This film, that was a very enjoyable film. It was very enjoyable to watch. And I am absolutely going to get this when it comes out on Blu-ray. I'm interested in seeing how the film is made. It looks like they use a fair amount of practical effects here. The film is in CG, or in 3D. And on IMAX, I saw it in 2D and regular aspect ratio. I can definitely see where seeing in IMAX has some bonuses coming out of it. The 3D is a post-conversion, so post-conversion can be hit or miss. From what I've heard, it sounds like on the post-conversion quality here is a hit from friends of mine who've seen it in 3D. And the advantage I'd say for doing post-conversion is it lets you get away with more practical effects when it comes to miniatures and that sort of thing. Looks like they brought Sid Mead back for some of the production design stuff. Not just in terms of reusing old design from the first film, but he's credited in the movie, in the tail end of the movie, to a degree, or the credits where, like, it seems like he's a little more involved. Aside from just reusing the original Spinner designs in a few places and that sort of thing. So, if you've seen Blade Runner 2049 and want to talk about it, please post your thoughts in the comments below. And please refrain from spoilers when this goes out. Let's say, as far as cutoff goes, because eventually you are going to, like, YouTube and the internet being as it is, this video will be up there after the statute of limitations is passed. So I will be, as far as for me moderating comments, and I'll be kind of moderating the comments on this. Once we hit, January of 2018, or we're going to start getting to award season, then go ahead and start getting into spoilers. Or at least wait until after the movie has hit DVD and Blu-ray and been out for a month, so that the people who didn't get a chance to see it in theaters have had a chance to see it at home. So, thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please like this video and subscribe to the channel to be notified when new videos come out. If there's something in particular you'd like to see me cover, or just want to get your name in the credits or otherwise help the show, please support my Patreon. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.